Life doesn't collapse in one day. It starts with tiny cracks, moments we brush off, signals we think are too small to matter, a sleepless night that becomes a sleepless week, a financial decision we put off that becomes a mountain of pressure, a relationship we ignore until silence replaces connection. The unraveling always begins quietly, disguised as something unimportant, something we believe we'll fix later, but later doesn't arrive the way we imagine. Later is the breaking point that feels sudden, but it never was. Later is when the world calls it a crisis, but the truth is the warning signs were already there, whispering to us long before anyone admitted it. And by the time those whispers make it into the news, it's already too late, because news doesn't report the quiet signs. It reports the storm when it finally hits, and that storm is never the beginning, it's the consequence. If you've ever seen chaos on TV, if you've ever read headlines of collapse, of panic, of desperation, you're not seeing the start of a problem. You're seeing the finish line of 1,000 ignored signals. You're seeing what happens when small, daily choices go unchecked, until they can no longer be contained. The first undeniable proof is mass panic. When panic hits the news, you already know you're late. Because panic means the shelves are empty, it means the systems are overwhelmed, it means the crowd has moved, and when the crowd moves, scarcity follows. Think back to any moment of mass fear, the markets crashing, shelves stripped bare, long lines forming around the block. In those moments, people aren't preparing, they're scrambling, and scrambling is not strategy. Panic means you missed your chance to act with clarity. It means you let the comfort of tomorrow rob you of the security you could have built yesterday. And now, the only choices left are the ones nobody wants but everybody must take. And when panic floods the streets, what comes next? Blame. Because panic without solutions demands someone to point fingers at. Leaders blame one another, communities blame outsiders, families even turn on each other, and in that noise of accusation, action slows to a crawl. The very people who should be solving problems are busy shouting about whose fault it is. And while they argue, time slips away. That's when the people who waited, the ones who thought someone else will fix it, discover that solutions don't arrive in the middle of blame, they arrive long before. If you didn't plant your tree when the ground was soft, you cannot beg it to grow when the storm has already ripped through the soil. The third sign you see splashed across every headline is desperation stories. A mother giving her last savings just to keep her child safe. A father selling everything for a sliver of security. Families making impossible choices because no other options remain. These stories pull on our hearts, and they should, but they also scream a brutal truth. By the time desperation is in the headlines, foresight has already expired. Nobody wakes up and chooses desperation. Desperation is what's left when foresight has been silenced, when preparation has been ignored, when the whispers went unheard until the roar was deafening. If you only realize the cost of inaction when you read the heartbreak in someone else's story, then you've already stepped into the same trap, just waiting for your turn to be written about. And that's the difference between those who thrive and those who collapse when the pressure comes. Thriving isn't about being smarter, richer, or luckier. It's about recognizing the whispers. It's about moving before the crowd. It's about refusing to wait for confirmation from a headline before you protect your future. People say they'll know when the time is right. But the truth, if you're waiting for confirmation, the time was yesterday. The proof was in your habits, your priorities, your choices, the ones that either built resilience or hollowed it out. Because preparation is not paranoia, it is wisdom. Discipline is not punishment, it is power. And foresight is not fear. It is love, love for your future self, love for the people who depend on you, love for the life you want to protect. If you care about tomorrow, you act today, because waiting for the news to scream at you is not preparation. It is surrender. Every storm that ever devastated lives was once a soft breeze that gave warning. Every collapse that shattered security was once a series of small decisions that could have been redirected. The world doesn't fall apart in silence. It whispers. The question is, will you listen before the roar drowns you out? The greatest danger isn't what's happening, it's what we ignore. It's not the storm that destroys us, it's the decision to leave the cracks in the roof unattended. It's not the financial collapse on the news, it's the small daily waste, the debt we brushed off, the habits we excused. It's not the broken relationship that shocks us. It's the hundreds of quiet moments we let slide, the conversations we never had, the apologies we swallowed. What we ignore becomes the thief of our security, our stability, our peace. And the cruel truth is, we don't lose because the danger was too big. We lose because we convinced ourselves it was too small. Danger doesn't arrive as a giant knocking on your door. It arrives as a whisper you choose not to hear, until one day it's too loud to silence and too powerful to fight. Distraction is the enemy of preparation. It doesn't steal your future all at once. It steals it in small, quiet moments. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," distraction just won. Every time you reach for your phone instead of your plan, distraction just took another piece of your future. And the cruel trick of distraction is this: it feels harmless. A few minutes here, a little scrolling there, a small excuse to put it off. But while you're distracted, time isn't standing still, it's moving, and it never gives back what it takes. Preparation demands focus. It demands that you do today what others will regret not doing tomorrow. But distraction disguises itself as comfort, as entertainment, as just one more break. And the longer you feed it, the more unprepared you become. That's why the storms of life don't just expose who's ready. They expose who wasted their readiness on distraction. Because when the crisis arrives, distraction will not save you. Only preparation will. Waiting for the world to confirm your fears wastes the little time you have. We live in a culture that hesitates until the proof is undeniable, until the evidence is splashed across screens, until everyone else admits what we already knew deep down. But by the time the world confirms it, it's no longer a warning, it's a crisis. Think about it. How many times in your life did you feel that nudge, that whisper inside you saying something's off, but you silenced it because you wanted validation from someone else? How many times did you hesitate because you didn't want to look paranoid or dramatic or overreacting, only to realize later that hesitation cost you the very chance to act early? Fear itself isn't the real enemy, it's the waiting. Because waiting turns foresight into regret. Waiting for headlines, waiting for experts, waiting for proof means you've traded your preparation for permission, and permission always comes too late. The world won't tell you when to move. That voice inside you already did. The tragedy is not that people don't see the signs. The tragedy is that they wait until those signs are undeniable, and by then the door has already closed. Information without action is just noise. We live in a world drowning in information, news headlines, podcasts, books, endless advice at our fingertips. And yet, why do so many people still collapse when pressure comes? Why do so many stay stuck in cycles of fear, poverty, brokenness, even when they know what to do? Because knowing is not the same as doing. Knowledge can fill your mind, but it cannot save your life until you put it into motion. You can study every article about health, but if you don't change your diet, the disease still comes. You can read every book on leadership, but if you don't practice courage, you'll still be a follower when it matters most. You can memorize strategies for financial freedom, but if you don't take disciplined action, debt still owns you. Information is not power, it's potential. Only action transforms potential into protection. Only action turns preparation into security. Without action, the information you gather is nothing more than background noise, a comforting illusion that you're making progress when in truth, you're standing still. The difference between those who thrive and those who panic is foresight. Crisis doesn't create strength, it only reveals who already had it. When the storm comes, two kinds of people emerge, the ones who scramble and the ones who stand steady. The difference isn't luck, it isn't wealth, it isn't talent, it's foresight. It's the ability to see the whispers before they become shouts, to act before the world gives you permission, to prepare when everyone else is distracted. Thriving people don't wait for proof, they read patterns. They don't waste energy hoping the storm will pass. They build shelters before the first raindrop falls. Panic belongs to the ones who thought tomorrow would always look like today, who traded preparation for comfort, who convinced themselves that later was enough. Foresight belongs to those who decide that their future deserves protection now, not someday, and when panic spreads, when desperation fills the air, Those with foresight aren't crushed by fear. They're lifted by the discipline they planted long before. Because foresight isn't magic, it's simply choosing to do now what panic will wish it had done later. Fear paralyzes, urgency energizes. Fear is the feeling that keeps you frozen, staring at the problem, replaying every worst case scenario in your mind until the weight of it crushes your ability to move. It convinces you that waiting is safer, that silence is wiser, that stillness is protection. But stillness under fear is not safety, it is surrender. Urgency, however, flips the script. Urgency doesn't deny fear, it uses it. Urgency says, yes, this is dangerous, yes, this is uncertain, but my window to act is shrinking, and I refuse to let it close. Urgency fuels courage. Urgency turns hesitation into motion, and motion creates options. Think of the firefighter who feels fear but runs into the burning building anyway. Think of the athlete who feels the weight of the moment but channels it into energy instead of paralysis. Urgency transforms the same adrenaline that keeps one person stuck into the power that drives another person forward. The question isn't whether fear will come, it always does. The question is whether you'll let fear freeze your future, or whether you'll turn that fear into urgency that forces you to move while you still can. It's too late, only comes to those who refuse to move when it was still early. The truth is, life always gives whispers before it gives warnings. There's always a season when the ground is soft, when the path is clear, when the steps you need to take are uncomfortable but manageable. That's the season of mercy, the window of time where small sacrifices protect you from future suffering. But most people ignore that season. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow. I'll prepare when it feels urgent. I'll change when I have no choice. And when the no-choice moment arrives, they call it unfair. But it wasn't unfair. It was unprepared. The harsh reality is that too late is never a surprise. It's the inevitable outcome of every early decision that was postponed, every whisper that was silenced, every opportunity to act that was traded for comfort. By the time people say, I wish I had, the time they wished for already existed. They just chose not to use it. Too late is never about timing. It's about refusing to move when time was still on your side. The news won't tell you when to be ready. Your discipline does. By the time you see it flashing across your screen, the damage has already been done. The shelves are already empty, the doors are already locked, the opportunities are already gone. The news doesn't warn you. It reports what has already happened. If your security depends on a headline, you're already late. Read carefully. Readiness isn't a reaction, it's a rhythm. It's not something you do when the world panics. It's something you build when the world is quiet. Discipline is the alarm clock that doesn't let you sleep through your future. It's the workout you do when no one is watching, the money you save when no one is clapping, the courage you practice when no one is cheering. Discipline whispers, I'll be ready before I need to be. And when the storm finally hits, when panic fills the air, you don't have to scramble, because your preparation already answered the question the news is too late to ask. Discipline is the difference between watching chaos unfold and standing steady while it does. If you're watching signs, you're already behind schedule. By the time the warning lights are flashing, the damage is already in motion. Signs are for spectators, those who waited, those who hesitated, those who needed proof before they moved. Preparation doesn't wait for signs, it builds in silence. Think of the farmer, he doesn't plant when he sees clouds forming, he plants when the sun is still shining. Think of the student, she doesn't start studying when the test is handed out, she prepares long before the questions are even written. Yet so many of us live like spectators, scanning the horizon for signs of danger, hoping we'll catch it just in time. But just in time is a fantasy. By the time the sign is visible, the storm has already gathered. By the time the headline confirms it, the shelves are empty. By the time the economy warns you, the collapse is already happening. Preparation isn't about reacting to signs. It's about moving before signs exist. If you're watching the signs, it means you've already missed the whispers, and the whispers are where survival begins. The wisest preparation is invisible until the storm hits. You don't see it in headlines, you don't see it in noise, you don't see it in people showing off what they've done. Real preparation is quiet. It's the savings account no one brags about. It's the healthy choices no one applauds. It's the routines, the discipline, the sacrifice that happens in silence while everyone else is distracted. That's why the unprepared mock the prepared, because preparation doesn't look glamorous, it looks boring. It looks unnecessary, it looks like too much work for something that may never happen, and yet when the storm finally arrives, those same sacrifices suddenly look like the smartest decisions anyone could have made. When the lights go out, the one with candles doesn't look foolish. When the shelves are empty, the one with food doesn't look paranoid. When fear grips the crowd, the one with foresight doesn't look extreme. They look wise. True preparation never announces itself ahead of time. It proves itself when the world starts shaking, and by then, it's too late to copy it. What you practice today decides whether tomorrow overwhelms or empowers you. Tomorrow doesn't care about your intentions, your promises, or your excuses. It only cares about your preparation. If today you practice discipline, tomorrow will reward you with resilience. If today you practice excuses, tomorrow will punish you with regret. Every choice you make right now is either a seed of strength or a seed of weakness, and tomorrow is nothing more than the harvest of today's habits. The soldier doesn't wait for war to train, he trains in peace so he can survive in chaos. The athlete doesn't wait for the championship to start conditioning, she conditions daily so she can thrive when the pressure is highest. Life is no different. If your daily practice is distraction, avoidance, and delay, then tomorrow's challenges will crush you. But if your daily practice is focus, courage, and consistency, then tomorrow's storms will not break you. They will showcase you. Power isn't given in the moment of crisis. It's built in the quiet repetition of days like today. What you rehearse now is what you will repeat when it matters most.